For those of you living in California, for those of you that live in a state besides Oklahoma, welcome to another episode of the Living in Tulsa, Oklahoma podcast. Today, I have a special guest with us who comes from the San Francisco Bay Area. As we go through the podcast, as we go through and talk to him, the accolades are pretty amazing. This is a spectacular human being. We have Joe Garcia with us today, and we are so excited to have you on. And I have my co-host, Kathy Dimmick.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So excited to be here.
So, Joe, let's start out first. You're from the San Francisco Bay Area. So what made you land here in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Well, I would say that I've always wanted to explore, different places to live in the United States. When I first applied to college, I applied to colleges even in New York City. So I was always like kind of an adventurer. I always wanted to travel and see the world. And Tulsa, I found Tulsa actually through a YouTube video just randomly talking about Tulsa Remote. And it just really interested me. I watched a lot of videos online, heard some personal experiences, and I just thought, even if I didn't like it, I could always just go somewhere else. And I was actually looking at places like Nashville, Dallas, Pittsburgh, but I'm not really looking at those places anymore because I really just enjoy living here.
Okay, so now you mentioned Tulsa Remote, and you are... you came in, so ultimately that's what brought you into Tulsa was the Tulsa Remote program, or were you going to move here anyway?
Definitely the program helped a lot because they were going to give you the $10,000. And prior to moving here, I had no idea what Tulsa was like. And, I just know that it's in the South, it's probably really hot and humid, things like that, just the usual stuff that people hear about. But I really came to find that there's a really great community of people here. People like to say hi and chat with you at the store, little things like that. They hold the door open for you. It's really just a nice place to be, and there's no traffic too. So it's really nice.
Yeah, coming from California, or our clients from California, that's one of the funniest things is like, our view of traffic compared to like someone who's lived in California, their view of traffic. And that's completely different. So yeah, our traffic is awesome. When I say, oh, we've got a lot of traffic here, they laugh at me. And yeah.
I'm just so used to driving like an hour to see friends and family because I have family and friends all across the Bay Area, and they're like in Marin or in the San Jose, the peninsula, like San Francisco area. So yeah, it's just a lot of driving I always do when I go back to visit family.
Okay. And for those of you that don't know, Tulsa Remote is bringing people here, paying people $10,000 to move here and work remotely. Now, what they want is somebody, they really want people that are, making like six figures a year. And you're an ambassador for Tulsa Remote. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So being an ambassador, you volunteer usually as a connector to kind of like reach out to people if you see that someone's not really engaged or they're kind of on their own. So you kind of help them feel more connected to the Tulsa Remote community. Another thing you do is that my personal favorite events are the hosted visits. So every month, Tulsa Remote, they pay folks who are potential members $500 to come to Tulsa and experience it. And so they have ambassadors sit with them at the table when we wine and dine with them. So give them a personal firsthand experience. And they always have a lot of questions like, oh, is this neighborhood safe? Like, how is this area? What do you like to do here? Where do I walk my dog? Things like that. And it helps to have that, personal account of someone who's been here and did the move. And so the feedback has been really good. So I still keep in touch with several of the people. One of them is actually, his name is Tom. He's in my friend group, and we keep in touch. We get dinner sometimes. He'll come over to my house now. He's actually currently traveling. So a lot of the Tulsa Remote members, they love to travel. We're kind of a group that just likes to get out there and see the world. And he's currently in Bali, just enjoying his time there. Yeah, working from home still too.
Wow. And so tell us what you do. What's your career?
So I work support for a cybersecurity company based in Seattle. They're called F5. Like they're actually named after the strongest tornado. So our product is used by a lot of the major companies. So like Verizon's one of my main accounts. Fidelity, even AT&T uses our product. Cox. And so I do support for them. So I'm working from home, obviously. And actually a nice benefit of Oklahoma that wasn't revealed to me until I did my taxes my first year is that as a cybersecurity employee, there's this thing called Form 566, where you can get either an $1,800 or $2,200 tax credit from the state of Oklahoma because I work for a cybersecurity company and I have a ABET accredited engineering degree. So I went to school at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, got an electrical engineering degree. And so if you have that kind of training from a educational institution, you can claim that credit. And I was approved for it last year and I'm going to get it again this year too.
Oh my goodness. I did not know that.
Yeah.
You know, I leave it to Joe, having worked with Joe for the last few months. I know Joe will turn over every rock, leave no stone unturned. If there is something to know, Joe will know it. And I love that. And I think that has probably been attributed a lot to your success here in Tulsa. And when I say success, I'm talking about not just success in your career, but success in life. Which made you want to set down roots here. So I love your curious nature and determination to just know everything.
Yeah, I go through my taxes and I go line by line and read every instruction for it. so I know like what I can and can't claim, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
I love engineers.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But I think like I do. I love the engineering personality. But you also like you're very social too, which isn't usually like that's typically not an engineer's personality.
Yes.
So you are more social than most of the engineers that are our clients. So. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I got a lot of that from my college friends because when I first came to college, I think I was more quiet, but I really came into my own self as the years went by and I socialized more and got, made friends. Definitely.
So tell us a little bit. You and Kathy were talking before the show and you are so involved and connected in Tulsa. I know that you're a volunteer for, remind me again, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Big Brothers, Big Sisters?
Yes, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that.
So as part of the Tulsa Remote Slack channel, so I saw a post one day about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They're looking for male mentors. And I just watched the video. I ended up applying and because I saw that they needed help. I actually talked with my match support and specialist, and she said that 85 of the 115 littles that need a match are little boys because usually it's like a single mom and you kind of already have that mother figure there, but not as much the father figure. So they especially need boys, and yet most of the volunteers are women. So they still do need, women to match with the girls, but there's just so much more demand for the boys. I can speak for my own match where I was matched to, his name is D'Angelo, and his brother didn't get a match until about 6 months ago. And so that was about like a year and a half. It took him to get a match when he was first, put into the system, and then he got a match. And I know he was always wanting to, go out because he was always like, hey, can I come with you guys? And I actually took him to it was hosted by the OKC Thunder. So I drove actually his little brother, his name's Dorian, to the Scissortail Park in OKC. And so there was a lot of like Thunder basketball players who were there. Like they were at least a foot taller than me. And they were teaching us how to like dribble and shoot layups. It was a really fun event. And I know he remembers that because he still talks about it to me.
I would still remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal. Wow.
Yeah,
That's so special.
I definitely think you're making an impact if you volunteer for them.
Were you involved in Big Brothers, Big Sisters back in California?
No, I never thought of doing a program like that because honestly, it's just super expensive and there's just so much traffic after work. So I can pick up my little after I get off, work at like say 6 p.m. I can take him, go to say indoor football game, right? Or take him to the Y and we'll play basketball. I have time to do that, but in the San Francisco Bay Area, like dealing with that traffic, that's just not realistic. Like imagine me going from, or from American Canyon and going to, UC Berkeley for a Cal game. That's just not realistic. Like that's just not going to happen.
I grew up in the Bay Area, so I absolutely can relate. It sounds like since you've been in Tulsa, you've either sought out, but it seems like they've just found you things that are really enriching your life.
I'd say so. Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I always find that I'm learning something new. So like, for example, we did this Tulsa Remote event where we tried different kinds of wines, and they had us sample like different foods to know like what doesn't work with the wine. So I had some spicy Cheetos and I had a really sweet red wine, and it really neutralized the spiciness of the Cheeto. and it really tasted like pleasant together. Yeah, you wouldn't think they would match, but I was like, oh, that actually was really good. Yeah.
So was that a Tulsa Remote event or was yes?
Yeah, it's a Tulsa Remote event. I forget where it was at, but it was at like some event downtown, and someone was catering with the wine and food.
I love that too, especially because, when we do pros and cons about Tulsa, Oklahoma, one of the cons is that it's hard to get to know other people and to like really fit in and dig in. But like, what else are you involved in and how did you do that so well?
Another thing I'm involved with is, and I wish I could be more involved with them, is I'm a Fears Fellow. So there's a professor by the name of Rufus Fears. He's a former history professor at University of Oklahoma. And he passed away back in 2013. But his lectures remain on YouTube even. And so you can go and watch them. And the Fierce Fellowship, it's intended to teach younger conservative Oklahomans the values of free enterprise, personal responsibility, and to essentially guide the future Oklahoman, young Oklahomans to a political future, potentially. I personally didn't go for that purpose. I just used it as a way to connect with a lot of other young, Republicans and young Okies just in general in the state. Because I find that with the Tulsa Remote program, it really connects you with the Tulsa Remote community, but not so much the Tulsa community at large or Oklahoma community at large. So I wanted to seek other opportunities within the state. And that was definitely, and they also paid me $500 to basically study the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, and other things too.
Fantastic. Wow. Sounds like just expanding your horizons. But I have a feeling, Joe, you'd expand your horizons wherever you were at.
Yes, definitely. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then piggybacking off of that, so with the, with that political twist, you also are the chair of the Republican.
So I'm part of the Tulsa County GOP. I'm the precinct chair for my precinct. I believe it's I just recently moved, obviously. So I'm pretty sure it's precinct 95, but I need to check again if that's not it. So what I do is I help volunteer for events. So for example, last year, I volunteered for the Tulsa County State Fair. So you get to, we had this like booth right in the middle of inside the expo center. And we had this like giant Donald Trump figure, and people were always coming to talk to us. And honestly, like I was there from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and until closing, it was just nonstop. Like people were coming, always saying hi, and then I was handing out brochures. And I feel like I'm definitely making an impact because one of the things that we did was we were handing out brochures for recalling the 3 judges. And one of them, we hadn't done it since, I believe, 1905. And we finally did it in this most recent election by 7,000 votes or something like that. And is no doubt due to all the efforts of, us at the Tulsa County State Fair and other events like that across the state.
That's fantastic. Speaking of Tulsa County State Fair, what'd you think of the state fair?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. I think I would love it as a kid. So back to my big brother, big sister's little D'Angelo, he actually told me, "Oh, can you buy me the wristband with unlimited rides?" And unfortunately, I was too busy. I could not take him to the state fair, but I did take him to Oktoberfest, and he wanted to ride all the rides. And I was honestly, I think because I'm getting older, we did the ride where it's in the cup, you're sitting in the cup and it spins you around both directions, this and that. I was getting dizzy. And he's like, "Can I go again?" Yeah, so he had a really good time, but I did like the bumper carts. I did get him back on that one.
So what did you think of Oktoberfest? And what do you think of the things to do in Tulsa? Tell us about the things to do.
I find that there's enough to do in Tulsa. I mean, although I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, there's a lot more to do there, but you are more limited, if you live further out in the suburbs. I'm from the suburbs more so. So if you wanted to drive to San Francisco, that's an hour commute, give or take. But so in Tulsa, you have more time to do things, and you can go to the Gathering Place. You'll hear about that a lot. It's a really great park, and they're developing the trail system there. They recently opened it up. So you run closer to the water. There's a new rapids that you can row down. I even saw people rowing last week. just down the river when it was that 80-degree day, which is really cool. Yeah, yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, the whole city came out for that one random day in the winter when it was really hot. Yeah, and I was like I go running for on the trail all the time, and I was maneuvering around people. That's how crammed it was. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, everyone's like, warm day, let's go. That's the thing about the parks. Like, usually like those first few days of spring or any warm days in the winter, like everybody is outside. They're like, yes.
Yes.
And that was extra warm.
Yes. It was
82
amazing.
degrees in the middle of January.
So what do you think about the weather here?
You learn to live with it, I would say. I don't think it's as bad as I was expecting. Even in the most humid parts of the summer, I'm outside running, but I'm running at like 5 a.m. in the morning. Not at like in the afternoon like I'm used to in California.
Right.
Yeah. So you learn to live with it and you get things done earlier in the day, or like right now it's super cold. So I'm more so running in the afternoon or evening.
People who are relocating all the time ask us about extreme weather. And since you've been here, I guess there's been some extremes, but the tornadoes and all of the things that people are fearful of, do you find that that's a realistic fear, or do you think that now that you're here, it's more of a like living in California? Oh, how do you deal with the earthquakes? Kind of thing. You just do.
Yeah, I would agree on that. It's the Okies generally, they're not really concerned, I would say, with tornadoes. And for example, I was just out of my apartment. I think it was 2023 when we had that big thunderstorm event. The sirens went off. It was Juneteenth, and there was a big celebration at down in North, like just like on Greenwood, right, just north of downtown. And the sirens were blaring. I actually knew it was going to rain, so I went back to my apartment. And people were just like walking outside downtown like they're not blaring. They're just like walking, like doing whatever. And then 10 minutes later, just like this big thunderstorm, wind comes out, and finally then people are actually like going to their cars and like trying to get out of there. But until that actually happens, like the typical Okie just doesn't really faze them.
It's kind of like the typical Californian. We know the earthquakes are going to happen. And you just hope it's not your time.
We've talked a bit about, how you got here, and how many years have you been here?
I moved in November 2022.
Okay, November 2022. And then we met you because you decided that you were ready to buy a house.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what made you decide to put roots down?
I would say that because I knew I wanted to stay here long term, and I was like, I think it's time to move out of my apartment. I want more space, but I hate moving. So I thought, well, if I just rented a house, I have to move again if I wanted to buy a house. So I thought, let's just buy a house, even though prices are high, rates are high. Let's just do it. At
what point in your journey did you say, this is the place for me?
I don't think it was an exact moment, but I think it was more of because I thought, well, where would I go if I were to leave Tulsa? And I just thought, well, I don't really want to go anywhere else. So I was like, I think I'm happy here, and I'm just going to stay here for the time being. Obviously, life happens and opportunity takes you somewhere else. Then, that does happen. But, I don't see myself going anywhere if it's my choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you chose a pretty trendy location. You're in Midtown.
Yes.
And tell us about, what made you decide on the areas that you were looking at?
I think for me personally, I wanted to be closer to like Midtown, downtown, just because there's a lot of events that happen there. South Tulsa, I feel like it was more for families, and I'm not at that stage of my life yet. And there are better school districts there, which is definitely valid for someone who is having kids or close to having kids. But that wasn't the case for me. So I thought, well, I can move to Midtown and be closer, more central to everything.
So you had a fairly unique process, I would say. Yes. It wasn't about just going out, looking, finding something, and making an offer. Can you tell me a little bit about, can you tell our audience a little bit about your process and what you thought of it?
Yeah. So what I did was I just looked at all the properties for sale in Tulsa. And I first made a list of every property because I had a significant down payment saved with an assumable mortgage. And then because all else being equal, I would prefer to make a big down payment, buy a house with an assumable mortgage so I could have a lower monthly payment, lower mortgage rate. I ended up making that list. I didn't like those houses. And so my final list of houses that I did like had just a conventional mortgage, or they were paid off like the house I purchased. And so once I had that final list, that's when I reached out to Sabrina, and we toured those houses, because one of them in particular, the one with the bathroom, which we'll get to, you needed someone who was a realtor to let you into the house and tour it.
So how many houses did you initially look at?
So I went to a few open houses before I actually contacted Sabrina. I don't remember them too well. One of them was on my list, but I didn't go with that house, even though I really liked it, because it was in South Tulsa. But it was a good house. And it actually sold within a month. So I knew it was a really good property. But
good one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
If you could talk about the things that mattered to you, like what was important to you when looking for a home?
So what was important to me was location, first of all. So I wanted a house that was pretty much in Midtown. I also wanted a house that was affordable, so I didn't want to live in paycheck to paycheck. That was really important to me. I preferred a 2-car garage, and end up getting that, thankfully, just because it's just so convenient to park your car and not worry about the elements, right? Yes. And I wanted something, and this was super important for me, is something around like 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. So something on the smaller side, but you could still grow into it.
So you ultimately decided on a house, put in an offer, and it was not accepted. Can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of what happened from there?
I know we made several verbal offers to the house I ended up purchasing, and they said no. I remember talking to both of you, and I thought, is this a fair price for this house? And you both said, yes, $292 per square foot is a really good, strong offer. And even the other realtor, the seller agent, agreed with that. And, it was basically just the seller, the owner, who was saying, I want to get the price I want. So we were kind of stuck. Yeah. And so, even though I really liked the house and thought it was just a little bit better than the other house with the bathroom we're going to talk about, I thought, well, if they said no several times, then we may need to move on to the next house, right?
So the house, let me just fill you guys in a little bit. So the house that we're talking about, great location. As far as, price and putting in an offer, we went through the comps. Kathy goes through everything. Joe obviously goes through everything. So, the numbers were tight, and it was like, this is a great offer. Put it in. The sellers, and this doesn't always happen, but sometimes sellers are in a position where they don't need to sell, and they're not going to. Several offers came in, trying to get that, and we weren't really willing to budge on the numbers too much. You might want to talk about that a little bit more, but we went after a house that you wanted, and we did not get the result that we wanted.
Not even kind of, not even kind of, but we did a super deep dive into that property and felt like paying significantly what they were asking for was too high. From a comps perspective, we were concerned about an appraisal coming in, and we just needed to advise you that where they want to be might not be the right spot. And you had another house that you loved, but there were some challenges with that house. So tell us a little bit about your backup house.
Yeah, so the backup house, it was a smaller house. It was a 2-bed, 2-bath. And it was renovated, and it was, in my opinion, a really nicely done job. However, the master bathroom, it was kind of in a small, I'll call it a square, right? And so they put the bathroom so that there's no segmentation between the toilet, and then no vanity for the sink, and then the shower occupies the same space. So if you were to take a shower, you would get water all over the bathroom, right? And because you get water all over the bathroom, there's no vanity to store your stuff. So we spent several days there, right? Several afternoons, yeah. And so there was always just a little bit of uncertainty with that house, because you would be buying the house and you may not get the project, the way you wanted it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of a few unknowns. And that brings up an interesting point. Buyers such as yourself and most buyers, I know myself and Sabrina and most of the people that we talk to, we all have a list of boxes that we want checked. And in a perfect world, we want all of our boxes checked. but in both of these homes that you were looking at, not all the boxes were checked. Can you talk about a little bit about what you were willing to compromise on? Like now that you've been in Oklahoma for a little while, what are the things that might be things that you were willing to not check that box on?
I would say definitely the lawn size, because a lot of houses in Tulsa and just Oklahoma in general, they have a big like front yard and backyard. So I found that I preferred something like around 5,000 square feet, just to keep the outdoor maintenance minimal, because I don't have a dog. I don't plan on getting a dog, for example. So that doesn't really appeal to me. But there's very few sales of homes, single family homes, that have a lot that size. And the one with the second choice, the backup choice that I had, that was on a 4,500 square foot lot. So that would require a lot less maintenance, and that really appealed to me.
Right.
But yeah, I was willing to compromise on that because, I didn't want to jump into that bathroom project that could potentially not work out the way we want it to.
Yeah, that can be scary. As your co-realtor, one thing that we never want you to do is settle. And that was a fabulous house. The backup house was a fabulous house. But we knew that the other house was the one that you went. So we just kept going back. And can you tell us a little bit about how that experience was for you?
Yeah, it was definitely very surprising. I did not expect them to accept our fourth attempt at getting this house. I think it was like a month and a half after you sent your first offer. Yep. And so that really surprised me, just getting a yes on that, because I was already at the point where I thought, oh, the backup house is going to be my house. And, I was okay. I was at peace with that. Like, that's cool. We'll figure out this bathroom project. So yeah, I would say it was a nice sense of relief, because I saw my primary option as like a much safer bet. It was move-in ready. It didn't need any, major work or anything like that. So I was very happy with
That's
that
fantastic.
worked out.
Yeah, it's such a perfect house for you.
Yeah.
And I knew that. Sabrina knew that. You knew that. And we just needed to get them, the sellers, to know that. So, just sometimes you got to go back a lot of times and not be afraid to hear no.
and I want to point out, how important that is, and what good work you did on that of, going, like, you guys have decided we're going with the backup house, let's put in an offer. And Kathy's like, let me check one more time again, and having that relationship with the other agent, and it worked. And you got, because of that, what is that word? Fortitude, or, I don't know, just persistence. And the relationship, knowing that was really the house that you wanted, like going back to that, and you getting the dream house in the dream location. And you're a runner. So tell us about the neighborhood. Now, it's been cold, so you haven't totally got to experience it. But tell us about like that location. It's right in between the river and where Peoria is, so Brookside, where all the restaurants and shops are. And I've even visited it before I bought it at night on a Friday and Saturday. And the cars they stop parking maybe 50 feet away from where my house is. And so I knew, okay, so the people who park to go visit the restaurants and shops there on a weekend, they're not going to park in front of my house. So this is perfect. And you don't hear all the noise from that street, like the traffic. And then you also don't hear the traffic on Riverside. So I was like, this is perfect. But you're still like a 2 or 3 minute walk away from the stores and restaurants. That's going to be so nice in the spring, like, just to get to walk everywhere.
So being a first-time home buyer.
Yes.
Tell me what your favorite part of buying a home was.
Like the home buying process?
Yeah, it's just the whole process. Because most people will say getting the keys.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's obviously that, but you're very analytical and you dig processes. Yes. Like, I learned that about you. You like processes. You like knowing what's going on at every stage of the game. And so you love that. So I figured maybe your answer would be a little bit different than because most people's knee jerk is getting the keys, but this is something I would bet you really grooved on.
Yeah, I would say definitely knowing that after having made the purchase, getting the keys did make that. That's definitely a good answer. But I would say for me, it's knowing I made the best choice because I looked at all the houses that sold a year within the last year, and I compared the house I bought to those houses that sold within my criteria, like around the same size, 3 and 2, around 1,500 square feet in the neighborhoods I was looking at, and I couldn't find any houses, maybe 2 houses that were pretty comparable, but I still liked my house and thought it compared really favorably with those other options that would have been good for me too.
Your house is so awesome.
Yeah.
It's just it's a bachelor pad, but it's not a bachelor pad. It's been fully remodeled and it's rich and beautiful. And it's just, it makes me happy when I go into it. It's a gorgeous home.
Now, could you have bought that house in San Francisco?
So where my family's at, it's a bit cheaper. So they are building new houses there.
Yeah.
They're about 1,500, 1,600 square foot to start, 2 stories though. And so not a ranch like mine is. And they're starting at the low 700s. But my house is nicer.
And I bet they're this far apart from each other.
Yeah. The lot size is smaller, quite a bit. I think it's probably like 4,500, 5,000.
Which you would actually like, but
I would like, yeah. But I wanted a ranch house. I didn't want a 2-story house. Yeah.
So what is your favorite part of living in Tulsa?
Favorite part of living in Tulsa, I would definitely say the people I've met, the community I've built. I got to be honest, when I visited other places close to Tulsa, road trips and whatnot, I really like the Bentonville area, but I know it's a little bit more expensive, but they have just so much hiking, opportunities there, hiking trails and like a really extensive trail system because of the founder of Walmart, the company's based there. But I don't really want to move there because then I would be leaving all the people and friends that I've made here. So I would say definitely that's probably the biggest draw for me to stay here and want to, enjoy being here. It's just Tulsa, like it's a really good place to be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What surprised you most about Tulsa and living in Tulsa?
Surprised me the most. That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like I feel like I did a lot of research on Tulsa and I wasn't really that surprised. But one thing I will say though is that I've had a couple friends visit me. The entire time they visited me, they kept pointing out all the differences from California to Tulsa. And I know I did that when I first moved here, but I eventually this is normal to me now, just living here. And so I don't know. That's a good question. I'd have to really think about it.
what were the differences? What are the differences that your friends point out?
Well, for example, I brought a friend to the gathering place and he told me, "Oh, where do I pay for parking?"
Oh.
I told him, no. You just park your car and it's free.
Actually, the reason that I asked is because I've actually been in Tulsa less time than you, and people ask me what I was most surprised about was I think the diversity and how friendly. I mean, I'm coming from Texas, so people in Texas are friendly, but the diversity and just it's the friendly nature of being here. Like not everybody's happy, and it's not rainbows and sunshines and unicorns all the time, but the overall feel is just people are happy to be here and friendly. And it matters. It makes you want to stay. Definitely. Makes you want to be here. Makes you want to pick up roots or put down roots. So we have a gift for you that we hadn't had an opportunity to give you because it just came in. I'm going to pass it to Sabrina because I can't, literally my feet are asleep. My ankles are twisting.
You. Can I open it?
Absolutely. Yes. Open it on camera.
All right.
And you can look at that next because it won't make sense yet.
Okay. Oh, cool. Is this for my wine bar?
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
Wine or whiskey, anything you want. But
tumbler glasses.
Joe has this fabulous little. It's almost like a little built-in. But inlet, and it's got a wine. It's got a wine fridge, and just a beautiful. It's a beautiful spot. So we felt like your beautiful spot needed some beautiful glassware.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, before we wrap it up, let me ask you, and this is a question that I did not prepare you for. Who is a Tulsan that you admire?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so part of my running group, Tulsa Runner, I met his name is JT and his family. He basically I'm part of his family now, and so he invites me to his son's. He's part of the band. He is part of the Tulsa. He goes to TU, so he's part of the wind ensemble. So he plays the drums for them, the xylophone. He's a multi-talented instrumentalist. I'm just very impressed with him, and very I wish I was that as good at music as he was when I was that age. And he's just always very sociable. He can talk to any adult, and I would say that's someone who I really admire that is in Tulsa.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being our guest.
Thanks,
Joe. You are an absolute favorite, and we love you so much.
Absolutely. And we're so excited for this next phase of your life, next part of your journey.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
All right.